brief introduction of my experience in Singapore. Yeah. Next. Oh, this is actually one of the desserts that I created for the Battle of the Lions. There is also a 4-platter desserts, and this one is a raspberry forest, glazed raspberry snow white parfait, coconut, young coconut panna cotta, dehydrated Swiss meringue, and the second dessert is Asian opera, honey pineapple chibus, crispy almond nut nougatine, passion mango jelly, liquid nitrogen exotic sherbet, crema fritter. And this is the third one. This is apple marron, mascarpone cream, sweet, golden delicious compote, spiced chestnut molu, yuzu foam. And the last one, which is a chocolate dessert, is a 64% coca, milk and dark chocolate caramel, apricot granite, nutty sacher biscuit, and praline streusel. Okay. Then after that, I actually take part in the Singapore's national pastry selection, and I did a circus team. Which is this, as you can see, is the base is actually a circus drum, and the top I did a sugar cannon, and the giraffe is popping out of the cannon. Yes. Okay, thank you. Then the next one is this is the gourmet team challenge that Chef Edwin was talking about. We took part in this is a live buffet for 30 packs. So we have to create a whole dessert buffet. For the pastry side, we have to create canapes, small desserts for 20 pieces, 2 types.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes, chef.
This is a live edible buffet.
Yes.
Edible. It's made a few hours before in different hotels, then they bring it to the exhibition. But the judges are also in the hotels checking on the hygiene and that. So this is very unique. So can you imagine all of this was done within 12 or 15 hours? But it's eaten. Judges judge, but it's eaten by the public. They pay money, $30 for lunch.
Yeah. A very exciting experience. So the next one will be the Coupe du Monde de la Pâtisserie. I just came back from France. I was the glacé chef, so I was in charge of the ice carving and the gelato cake, which is a very great experience because before that I wasn't involved in ice carving because ice carving is normally.
Edwin, just explain that dessert.
Okay, this dessert is what I created is Pearl du Soleil. It's in French, but in English terms is Pearl of the Sun, because Griffin is actually connected to the sun god Apollo. So I created this whole thing in conjunction with the Griffin. Griffin is actually a eagle head, eagle wings, and front eagle claws, and the back of a lion and the back of the lion legs. So this cake will be actually put with the dessert. Yeah, a terrific experience at France.
I said 9th out of 22.
Yes, chef.
The French won, but the French are on homeland. I'm not saying anything, but when they come from Singapore, it's already 13 hours on the plane. When they come 30 degrees Singapore, minus how many in Lyon?
-5.
-5, so already 35 degrees difference.
Yes.
Anyway, and snowing most probably. Okay.
Yep. And this is the dessert that I will be doing, that I did for the IKA Olympics. This is the 4-platter, because IKA Olympics we have 4-platter desserts, one of which will be the chocolate dessert. And this one is jasmine smoke, milk tea ganache, coconut sacher, apricot spear, and almond croustadillan. And the second dessert, which is a fruity dessert, yellow art, pineapple mascarpone parfait, fried mango churros, passion fruit chutney, exotic foam. And the third one is actually a freestyle dessert. It will be red fruits, lime strawberry caramel, raspberry waffle, ruby peach sherbet, and pistachio fouletin. For these, I did ruby peach sherbet in a shape of a strawberry. So this strawberry you see is actually a ruby peach sherbet. So for cold plating desserts, normally we try to implement new techniques that we can attract people and keep them guessing. So when they actually know what is it, it's quite interesting. So the next, last and not least, is garden mint. apple chibus, blanc merger cocoa, flaky praline pastries, apple caramel. Okay. So this is what I want to share with you all for my experience doing cold plating desserts. First, I have actually 4 steps. First is the planning. Planning is which you will choose the right plate that you like, because the plates you have quite a huge range from rectangle to circle to square. So for the Culinary Olympics, actually I tried a very round plate. It's quite difficult to plate, but if you do it nice, you can actually score from there. So first is the plate. The second is the flavor composition that you will compare for the 4 plated desserts. Then you think of the design that you want. You can use different shapes to present what you want. It's better to be the 4 platter to be of different techniques and different shapes, and hopefully you won't repeat what you use on top. Then the second step is to execute and proceed to produce the design that you have planned. That means you do the plating itself. You just do out the 4 platter. The first round will be very difficult because you will need to improve and move to the next step. But you don't stop working on areas to improve and also techniques to be incorporated in the desserts. Lastly, after your dessert is done, you need to perform precision. That means you need to be sharp and consistent and make sure that you always do the same exact things out. So during this route, you will face quite a lot of comments from various mentors, but you take it as a challenge, because don't let them take you down, because what they want you to improve, that's why they give you a lot of pointers. It's where you can improve. So you take every problem as a challenge. You actually hear a lot of good pointers.
Kenny Kong is his mentor. Kenny Kong has judged here a few times, and you find him everywhere. He was judging in the Olympics. So he follows his mentor, accepts the criticism from his mentor and other mentors.
Yes.
And prepares this, 100 times, you told me?
Yes.
Practice 100 times. You don't just do a dessert and say, oh, that's fantastic. No, because I use Singapore, because I'm half Singaporean. They really want to get these guys to improve. So the mentors are there since now 35 years nearly.
Yeah. Thank you, Chef. So that's all, thank you. And I'll start with my demo. Okay, firstly, for the first 2 hours, what I will do is I will do all the mise en place and share with you the new techniques that I created. And the other 2 hours, we will do the plating from scratch. Okay. Firstly, I'll start with the red dessert. Some of the components. Okay, this is actually a ruby peach sherbet in the shape of a strawberry, as you can see. Yes. So this one, I actually use a real strawberry, and I do a silicone, and I mold it, and I do a mousse inside, and I blast freeze, and I unmold. So you will actually have the whole shape of a strawberry. Yes. Yes. So you can't really see the features, but I will enhance by giving a light spray, and after that I will glaze it. So from far you see the whole platter is it will look like a strawberry. So what I do is now I'll be using a spray. This is an airbrush with a portable canister. So when I'm traveling, I like to use this, because normally what we do is we have to have a big compressor and we travel here and there. Yeah. So this one is actually very good for traveling. But beware, because sometimes when you go past the customs, I think this one can't really go through. Yes. Okay. So I'll use red cocoa butter. As you know, sometimes spraying is quite messy. So what I did is I just take a nice box, a small box, and I spray inside. After that, I can dispose. Easy and clean. So what I do is I will add some texture onto the strawberry. Okay, so I add some texture to the strawberry. Okay, so I'll do 2. And the second one.
So this he prepared here yesterday afternoon.
Yep. Okay. Okay, and I'm done. Of which now I will freeze these 2 sherbet, and after that I will dip in the neutral glaze. So we move on to the yellow desserts, which I'm doing the churros. From what you know, churros, normally what we eat is we're using a piping bag and we pipe straight. So what we can do is, we do the same recipe, but we present in a different way. So what I do here is using hot oil. I will take the very fine piping tube. I will use a cutter to get the shape, and I'll put inside the oil. So apply in circular motions. So the ring will actually hold the shape of the churros while it's frying.
You're following this on the recipe, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, there. Okay. Right.
So it'll take some time. It's almost done. After which you will get a very rustic shape of churros. So after that, I will just put it aside and leave it to cool. So while it's still hot, you can still slightly adjust it a bit. Okay, so now I will show you the glazing of the green dessert. The freestyle dessert, garden mint, chibus, major cocoa, flaky pastry, apple caramel. So I will do the glazing of the apple chibus now with the donuts. So I will melt the glaze. Okay. This is the green plate. This is the freestyle dessert, garden mint. So this is a green neutral glaze that I did with apple puree and a little bit of green coloring. So what I do is I'll just do the blending. It's always good that you glaze at a certain temperature so that you can catch the consistency. Different glazes has different texture. So for these, I glaze at a cold temperature of roughly 20 degrees. So make sure to control the glaze, that you remove all bubbles. Okay. So I'm going to create a marble effect. So I will have another glaze, which I put aside with some white condensed milk coloring. So because I want to create a double tone effect on the glaze, so I will actually have one white glaze and one green. Okay, so these 2 glaze. Okay, so in the piping bag, I will pour the green glaze first. Then of which, I'll pour the white one inside. Just a little will do.
No alcohol in Maria. This is non-alcoholic white wine. I didn't tell him, sorry.
So by moving through and forth, you will create a marbleized effect. Okay, I'll show you one more time. Coloring. First, by pouring the green glaze first. Top the white. Be sure to move very quickly so that you can create the effect. Okay. Be sure to clean the edges. Oh, sorry, I think I put it here. So for glazing, sometimes you will have these kind of edges, but after I set in the chiller, I will use a warm insert, and I will warm it. I will show you later, and I will clean the edges, because for a mousse, you have to have very clean edges. Okay. Okay, so what I do is I warm the metal insert. Just slightly warm will do. And what you do is you remove you do some cleaning on the mousse. Push back and forth. If the plate is not very hot, you can just warm it slightly again. Okay. And the last one. After which, I will put in the chiller and we will be preparing for the plating later on. Okay. Okay, so what I do is I will do now I'll move on to the chocolate glazing of the chocolate dessert on page. Oh, the last one, the freestyle dessert, jasmine smoke. And I will do the glazing of the milk tea ganache. So my chocolate glaze, I will melt it in the micro oven. This, for my chocolate glaze, I glaze at a temperature of 34. Okay. Then this is a neutral glaze, which I use for the green dessert. I will be glazing the strawberry dessert later, so I'll put aside first. Okay. So for the chocolate dessert, we have the milk tea ganache and the coconut structure. So the coconut structure, I have pre-dipped it in a rocher. So this is the rocher. You can use chocolate, milk, cocoa butter, chocolate 100 and cocoa butter 50. You just melt it and you add toasted cocoa nibs and you dip at a temperature of roughly around 35. So when you dip up, you make sure you need to clean it nicely. So this, because I'm presenting in both ways. One is a rocher and one is a glazed chocolate ganache. So what I'm doing, I'll be melting the glaze now. Okay, my glaze is done. While glazing, make sure you remove all air bubbles with the blender. Stir it after a few rounds. Because when you use the blender, the bubbles will actually combine in the center of the blender. So after a while, you will create the bubbles. So you have to mix it and let the bubbles in the center to come out and you continue blend. Okay. Okay. So what I'll do this round, instead of glazing over the mousse, I will dip the mousse into the glaze. So I'll show you. Be sure when there's water moisture on your mousse, you need to remove it. So clean it. So when you want to remove it, it's easy. You just take the satay stick and you twist slowly. Okay. Now go for the next one. Okay, so for the same thing, I will turn it out. Okay. So I will temporarily store in the chiller, and I will prepare for the later presentation. Okay, I will redo the, sorry about just now the angle that you can't see the glazing. I will redo the glazing one more time of the green apple dessert. So the same, I will put the white glaze and the green one. So the same, we remove the bubbles from the glaze. Okay. So I pour in the piping bag. And the white one. This technique you can actually use on whole cakes. You can try with dark glaze with maybe red tone, and you can maybe try white with purple or any desired colors. This technique is very funky in a way.
On the CNN.
So try to move back and forth to create the effect of the lining. But I have to move quickly.
Okay, I'm not a pastry chef. I can make Swiss Würstchen and potatoes. So my question is,
Yes,
why
chef.
don't you dip that like you dipped the chocolate before? Maybe it's a stupid question, but I think I can ask it. Why are you making all that physical effort now to coat your
Instead of
dish
chocolate,
there?
because the chocolate, what we'll be doing a clear smooth glaze. That effect is what I want to achieve. For this, I want to achieve a marble tone. So using both different techniques in different kind of plating, you will present and actually score from there.
Thank you, Chef.
Yes,
So,
chef.
as we say, every day you learn something.
So I believe you can see clearly on the marble effect. So as mentioned, I clean it a bit. And then you warm the insert. Make sure the sides are clean. So make sure the sides are clean. Finishing is very important in cold-plated desserts. So make sure everything is ultra clean. Okay, I think the tray is cold again. So I warm the tray slightly. Hello. Okay. Try to push in one motion so that you will actually fold the ending in. So you have a very clean cut. So, slightly. Okay, and I'm done, and I'll put it in the chiller. Okay, I had some question asking me how do I do the strawberry dessert, the strawberry sherbet just now. So this is a homemade silicone that I did. So what I do is I get a fresh strawberry and I place it on the insert, and I just pour, I put a ring, a cutter ring, I put a cutter ring, and I pour the silicone inside. So it will get the shape of the strawberry. So after, it's inverted actually. So after I ammo, the inside is actually the shape of a strawberry. So, but in Asia, silicone is quite expensive in a way. So an alternative would be you can use a gelatin mold. Gelatin mold, you can use 100 water to 10 grams of gelatin. That is a gelatin leaf. So in Asia, some gelatin is 2 grams and 3 grams, but you weigh in the way of 10 grams. So it's 100 grams of water to 10 grams of gelatin leaf. So you just melt it, and you temper to roughly about 50 degrees. Because strawberry is fresh fruit. If it's too high, the temperature, the strawberry will lose its shape. So you bring down to roughly about 50 degrees, and you pour over the strawberry. So after it hardens in the chiller, you just ammo, and you can cut it, and you will get the shape of the strawberry. Okay. Okay, so now I move on to the green dessert, the apple chibus. I'm doing the diplomat cream. The first page. I'll do a diplomat cream on top of the puff pastry. This puff pastry I have pre-baked yesterday. So what you do is, you take a sheet of puff pastry. If you have a sheeter, you can roll it to roughly sheeter number 1, that is roughly about 2 mm. And you bake it for 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, you remove from the oven, and you put a baking paper on top, and you take a flat tray to press it down. So after pressing it down and you bake for 10 minutes, you will get a very ultra flat puff pastry. Because as you know, puff pastry after baking, it will actually rise, and sometimes you get very uneven shape. So after pressing, 10 minutes after it gets its shape ready, you remove the tray and remove the paper and bake for another 5 minutes until it gets the color. And you apply a sugar syrup and bake for 1 minute. So the sugar syrup, you can use 1:1, which is water 1 and sugar 1. So you just brush on top, and you will get a very nice, shiny, caramelized effect. So even if we are doing cold-plated desserts, we must make it very real, as in if the judges or anyone see, it looks very appetizing. So by doing that, they can see the little details that you do. So now I will do the puff pastry, and I'll pack the diplomat cream on top. Okay, so I've whipped some diplomat cream. Diplomat cream is a pastry cream with some folded whipped cream. So you have a texture of a cream pâtissier, but it's slightly lighter. But very even dots. Make sure it's in the center. So I will leave this in the chiller to set for roughly about 10 minutes. Because as you know, the diplomat cream is quite soft. So after when I stack, the side view of that will be like this. Okay, so I will store in the chiller. Okay. Okay, the next thing, I will do some sugar deco for my green dessert that you should see the nice sugar curd on top. So sugar, there's different ways of cooking sugar. Some they use sugar to water, that is 1,000 grams of sugar to 400 grams of water and 100 grams of glucose. But in nowadays commercialized, we use isomalt because we are doing large showpieces, and isomalt has a very standard texture and is resistant to humidity. Because in Asia, it's quite humid, and you usually see after some time the sugar showpiece starts to sweat or starts to drip a bit. So what we do is we use isomalt. And I cook to a very high temperature of 178. You can range from 170 to 178, but if you put at a very high temperature, your sugar is very tough, but after you put, it's very shiny, super shiny. So my preference, I actually cook to 178. So this is pre-cooked already. I just have to warm it up in the oven. By intervals of 10 seconds. Okay. So I'm actually scared of burning my hands, so I wear 2 gloves. So the sugar will get softer after each intervals. Okay. Make sure you warm the sugar in intervals of 10 to 20 seconds, not 1 minute, because sometimes 1 minute the center of the sugar burn and your whole sugar will spoil. So after every 10 intervals, you just work it out until it's ultra smooth. So while I'm doing that, I will show you how I do my yellow art dessert. As you can see in the picture, the pineapple mascarpone parfait, you have a tulip. It's this one, this tulip. This tulip is a super fine tulle by using a recipe of 4 ingredients: butter, egg white, icing sugar, and flour. So that I add a bit of mango puree into it, each 1 to 1, so 100 of each. So icing sugar, flour, butter, and mango puree. So 100 each, I mix it up into a tulle. So I will bake into this mat. This mat is a mat from Pavoli.
Sorry, a mat from what? French name? Is that French name?
Yes, Pavoli. Palovi. Sorry for my pronunciation. So this mat is actually used for sugar view when you do wedding cakes. Very nice decoration. is specifically designed for sugar view. But what I do is, I do use it to do my tulip. So, my tulip, I chill in the chiller for a while. Sorry. While doing, I'm waiting for my sugar. So what you do this is, I use an anchor to apply very thinly. So as you can see, it gets the shape of the mat. So what I will do, I will use this baking in a temperature of 150 in the oven. I'll bake for 3 minutes. But after 3 minutes, I will overturn this mixture. Because it's half soft, overturn, and I will unmold, and you will get the shape on the mat, and you cut to your desired shape. You can do in round, rectangle, any shape that you design. But for me, I do in a square frame. Where's my frame? Okay, I'll show you later the square frame. After baking, 3 minutes, I overturn and I bake for another 5 minutes at 150. So after of each, when I take out from the oven, I use a knife to cut to the thickness I want. This thickness is about 2 cm. The thickness that you want. So if you want to do it in a rectangle shape, like this, you can cut to the shape that you want, and you just fold it. But you need to warm your ring in the oven for 3 minutes. Because when this tube touches something cold, it will set instantly. So after you wrap the square ring, within 1 minute, the whole thing will set something like this. Sorry, because it's ultra fragile, so I really kiasu. So I keep it in a. For tulip, if you want to keep very fragile tulip, you can keep it in soft foam or bubble wrap, especially when transporting. Because after so many days of prep, you don't want to spoil it due to some transportation. So what I do, I did it here and I store it in the foam base. And of course, at the base you put some calcium. Because as you know, tulip in Asian country is very humid. So after some time, the tulip actually gets soft. So I put some calcium on the base and I cover. Okay, so I'm going to keep the tail first. Sorry?
You said something was there on the base. What was it? Silicone?
You mean this base?
Yeah.
This base is actually this tube.
No, I mean the one which is avoiding the humidity.
Oh, the calcium. The calcium is something that absorbs moisture from the air. So you can, 那个 ball 叫什么? Purple ball. You can actually use
photography.
For photography, you can get at shops at photography. There is the purple color ball. Yeah, you can use that as an alternative. Because this calcium is a commercialized product that I get from a supplier that helps to contain humidity. Yeah, because as you know, in Asian countries, really, we are fighting with the humidity. Yes, okay. So I'll move on to my sugar deco. Oh, another ring. Square ring, back. So I just fold it in. As you can see, it's very tough. So in the 4-plated desserts, I use decoration consisting of tulip, chocolate, and sugar. It's good to use different kind of decoration so that you can present different techniques and different finishing. So for the green dessert, my finishing is I'm using sugar decoration. For the chocolate, I'm using chocolate flower decoration. And for this, I'm using tulip. So you can see the different presentations. So try not to repeat what you use on platter dessert on the next one. So you can create 4 different kind of textures. So my sugar is still a bit hard. Yes, this is the ring that I use for my tulip. So if you want a square ring, if you can use this to create the shape. To create this shape. Alternatively, if you want round, you just shape it and you will get a round shape. So this is very versatile. You can play with any kind of rings that you want or any shapes. Yes, my sugar is done. Okay. Oh, so be careful, it's ultra hot. So sugar, you put it at a harder texture. If not, if it's so soft, your sugar come out will be not so shiny as it is at a harder texture. So just try to play around with it. For sugar coloring, you can use a different kind of coloring, as in water base from Red Man. If you want a powder base, what I'm using is a sugar powder base, which has to be added with some water. So when you cook the sugar to roughly about 140, you add the color inside, and you bring up to 178. See, my sugar is almost done. So try to put it very thinly. Okay, I put another one. So be sure to pull it very, very consistently. While it's still hot, you can play it to any shape that you want. Okay. Then after it's set, you trim off the rough part. You get a very shiny sugar curl. So as the same sugar, after you pull, you have to store in a vacuum pack, tight seal container with calcium. You can prefer to use some food lacquer if you want, some food lacquer spray. Food lacquer spray is to protect the sugar from humidity. You can purchase from in-house supplier. See, I'll show you one more. So while it's still hot, you just twist. And get it. Remember to trim off the base because it's slightly thick on the side. Okay. Okay, while I still have the chocolate glaze, I will start on the plating of the chocolate dessert. The effect of the round chocolate sauce. I'm using a glaze, so I slightly melt the glaze. So I'm using a turntable to create the effect. So using a small brush, okay. This turntable you can actually buy on the internet. I bought it from Taobao for $50. Or else you can use what we do in the kitchen, we have also a turntable, but that one will require 2 persons. So 1 person can actually pull for you. But for me, I rather purchase this because it's versatile. You can do a lot of kind of desserts using this. Yes, okay, so I will start with the plating of the chocolate dessert now. For all my purees, I'm using Very Fruit. In Singapore, we have a few brands, but I personally prefer Very Fruit because of the consistency and the fruit content, and the flavor is also very intensive. I do also use Sosa, which is a gluconate and alginate. These two for this chocolate spear. So this one is a very commercialized product. So after when you cut this ball, the juice will actually spill out. It's a caviar, something like a caviar. So what I do this, I actually use these two products. alginate, and glucodec. You have actually instructions on top of that. So you use the desired puree that you want, and you blend in, it's like 1,000 gram of puree to 10 grams of glucodec. So after you blend it in, blend smooth with the puree that you want, you pack into a dome mold, a spear mold, silicone mold, and you freeze it. After freezing, you dip into the gelatin alginate mix, which is also around, they have instructions on top actually. It's roughly 1,000 gram of water to 10 grams of alginate. You blend and you dip the caviar inside. It's quite straightforward, this one. So now I'm beating the lime chantilly for the strawberry dessert. Okay. So before I go on to the plating, I will make some neutral glaze to continue with the story that I did. So I have some fruits here for the plating. For cold desserts, it's good to do some gelatin work, and you can actually practice some dipping. So you can see the fruits are actually glazed in gelatin. So gelatin mixture would be around 1,000 grams of water to around 55 grams of gelatin leaf. So you steam it at 130 for 4 hours. You cling wrap in the insert to remove the bubble. After that, you take it out and you chill it. So after you form the blocks, you can melt it at roughly around 25 degrees, and you pre-dip your fruits. You just dip like a neutral glaze. It's good that you catch the temperature at around 25 like that, because at that texture, the gelatin mix is very smooth and your fruit is cold, so that the reaction will cause the gelatin to coat the fruit. So after you leave it up, you will get this kind of effect. So this one will be the plating for later. So for dessert plating, we use, as I mentioned, we use all real fruits and real paste. So it will look very appetizing. Yeah. Yes. So this will be the strawberry that I did just now. So these are neutral glaze. You can also use mirror gel. I need some more. Any questions so far? If you all have any questions, you can ask me later. So for the strawberry leaf, I use a fondant with green coloring. So after I glaze this and put this on top, that's where you will get the strawberry. Okay, I think almost done. So it's a little bit hot. I temper slightly. Okay, so now I'll do the dipping. So after dipping, you will actually have a very lively strawberry. And you clean the side. Okay. Okay, I do the same thing for this. Why I push it is because after glazing, the glaze tend to fall on the sides of the mousse and the thing that you want to glaze. So always practice after glazing to clean the sides and the base. So I will leave it at the side. Later I will use it. Okay, so I'll start with the plating of the chocolate dessert. So even for me, I've done this dessert 100 times. I still have to print one piece and look at it when I plate. Because sometimes you do forget some parts. So to be very precise is good. It's a good practice to always look at the photos and do back the same exact things that you do. So, okay, so I'll be doing the chocolate dessert plating now. So the second step, I will put a chocolate decoration. This chocolate decoration which I did is a Dulce chocolate from Verona. 32%. I like the caramelized color. Dulce is a caramelized white chocolate, so you have a contrast between milk and white chocolate. So this color actually breaks down the two mousse that I'm doing later. So you just put this here. So for cold plating, sometimes you need to be precise and your hands are not so detailed. So what I practice is I use a tweezer. This is a tweezer. So a tweezer can reach points where you can't reach with your bare hands. Okay, so third step, I'll put the chocolate rocher. And I'll put my caviar. So I finish it with a very slight touch of gold leaf. Sorry. Okay. So after of which I will put the chocolate pliable ganache. This chocolate pliable ganache is made out of dark chocolate gelatin sheet, water, sorbitol, agar-agar powder, glucose, and cream. So you cook the water sorbitol, you boil it, and you add the agar-agar powder with 1% of sugar and glucose inside. So after you add inside, you boil. After boil, you add cream. And lastly, you pour into the gelatin sheet previously hydrated with water and add into the dark chocolate. So you use a blender to emulsify the mixture, and you spread into a very flat sheet. You can actually use a tray with a silicone mat and you just spread. After spreading, I actually cut into stripes. I cut into a rectangular stripe and I cut into half. So this is very extremely pliable ganache. So you add some finishing to my plated dessert. So as you see, my hands can't reach some parts, so I will use a help of a tweezer. A very natural shape. Okay. After of which I'll put a chocolate crumble. The chocolate crumble recipe is actually stated in the recipe as cocoa crumble. You have plain flour, cocoa powder, sugar, butter, and ground almond. So you mix the flour and cocoa powder and ground almond sugar in a mixing bowl for 10 seconds, of which you add in the butter, and you will form a very crumbly dough, and you bake in the oven for 170 degrees, approximately 15 minutes, and you will get this chocolate streusel, which is also called cocoa crumble. So, as you can see, this dessert, I have different components of texture. I have chocolate pliable ganache. I have a chocolate cremor and a rocher with a piece of chocolate douce. So I will add some more punch to it, as in the crunchiness, which is the chocolate crumble. Okay. So as usual, I will use the help of a tweezer to help me. Julie is helping me to unmold the chocolate decoration, which I pipe on a piece of plastic. Quite simple. You just temper chocolate to the dark chocolate. You temper to roughly about 32 degrees, and you put in a nice piping bag, and you cut, and you pipe the flour. But of course, this one needs tons of practice lah, because you have very irregular shapes. So what you can do is you can check on the internet and get some flour stencil, and you print it from there, using it as a base, and you put a plastic on top, and you pipe. So after various practice, you will get it right. Okay. be sure when you do plating, your fingers don't touch the side of the plate. So because if you touch, you will leave fingerprints on there, and when you see as a whole dessert, it's not very nice and pleasant. Okay, so the next step, I will put a almond crosstillion, which is this. This is a very versatile. It's a kind of nougatine. It's made out of sugar, cocoa powder, plain flour, butter, water, and ground almond. So you mix all together, and you spread on a silk pad, and bake in oven at 160 degrees for 20 minutes. So as usual, when you take out from the oven, when it's warm, you cut to your desired shapes. So I cut into rectangle stripes, and I just use a metal cutter and I bend it. I put on it. So in turn, you will actually get the shape. So as what I mentioned, you can actually use different kind of rings to present what you want. You can customize very special shapes. If you want some curl, you can actually warm it up and you put on a curl, and you will get the very, very nice curl shape. So. Okay, this green dessert, I have pre-sprayed the effect. So to get this shape, I use some plastic and cut in the shape of a fan. You just use a pen knife. This one you can customize any shape that you want. To get this double tone effect, I cut two designs. One is slightly larger and one is slightly smaller. So when you join both together, you will get this double tone effect. So what I do is I use the small one and I put on a plate. And the same technique that I used just now, I use the canister spray and I spray yellow, after of which I removed. And I put the other one and I spray green. So after you take out, you have this effect. So for this dessert, I incorporated some airbrush technique so that when you see this four plated, on airbrush on the plate is only one. So you can present four different kind of techniques. Okay. So as you can see here, I have this green mint leaf. So what I do is instead of presenting mint leaf like this, I took the mint leaf and fry. So you have a very kind of crusty texture. It's like a kind of crunch, a crispy texture. So definitely, if you want to do presentation, the mint leaf can't be fried too early. So maybe about 2 hours earlier, you fry and you keep it in a container covered. Then you do for presentation. Okay. Okay, green desserts. Okay, so we are moving on to plate the green dessert, which is the garden mint chibus. So this is a coconut nougatine. This coconut nougatine consists of glucose, sugar, butter, and desiccated coconut. So what I do is I warm the sugar, butter, and glucose in a pot. Then I add in desiccated coconut. So it will form a dough, and you can take and roll on 2 pieces of baking paper. You roll to the thickness of roughly about 1 cm, and you bake in the oven for 170, approximately 5 minutes, and remove from the oven, and use a round cutter to cut it. After cutting it, remove and put on the tray and continue baking for another 10 minutes. So you get this shape. So this shape, I actually use a silicone mold to compress it. I'll get the silicone mold and show you all. So after baking this was initially a round shape. So I improvise it by warming it in the oven for 5 minutes. By warming in the oven for 5 minutes, and I use the both mold to compress. So now I'm doing the base. So for this apple dessert, I also did another component, which is the caramel apple. So you cook 1,000 water to around approximately 700 sugar, cook to caramel, and you add the apple inside, and you poach it. This is a Granny Smith apple. After poaching it, you remove from the pot and just soak it for 1 day until it cool. Then you take out and dry. So you get this very beautiful apple caramel. And this is the glaze that we did initially. Okay, so this is the milfoil with diplomat cream that I did just now. So I start the assembling. So also with the help of a tweezer, okay. I think I put outside wrong. Yes, thank you, chef. Okay, so I'm going to put my apple chibus mousse on top. Okay. So always for dessert plating, you need to make sure that the dessert is very moist, very juicy, because I have a composition of a caramelized puff pastry and the very juicy apple, and I have a milfoil cream. On top is a crispy nougatine and apple chibus. So I did a mint sauce, which we have the recipe inside, mint infusion coulis. So what I do is I mix sugar and pectin together. I boil water and add mint inside, chop mint inside the water, and infuse for 1 minute. After which you add the sugar and pectin inside and boil again. Always when you add pectin, you need to bring up the temperature to at least 60 degrees to activate the pectin. This is something that you need to take note. So after boiling, I just cool the mixture overnight, and you will get that kind of a mint infused coulis. So I put in the piping bag. Okay, so what I do is I do the sugar deco. Make sure it's very stable inside. It's a bit thick. I can just stain it. Okay. So it's like a shape of an apple. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I do the finishing for the flower. Okay, and we are done. Okay. And we are done. We are quite quick. We are done with 2 desserts. Okay. So while we still have 5 minutes, I will show you on the chocolate. The strawberry dessert. We just do some touching up. Okay. So the mousse has softened a bit, so I will just turn the satay stick out from the strawberry. So be very aware of sometimes when we stick some items. For example, if I were to cut the flower and the stem, I will just put on top of the strawberry. It will actually fall off after some time. So what I did is, below of the fondant, I piped a little chocolate dot, a string. So when I put inside the mousse, it will be very stable because it is actually eating inside the mousse, you see? Something like this. So from far, you will have the visualization that it's actually a strawberry, but it's not. So we can think of these kind of techniques to present when we do for competitions. Okay. Okay, we still have 5 minutes. Do anyone have any questions? Okay, so while waiting, I will just cover the dessert. So I will move on to the yellow art. Pineapple mascarpone parfait, fried mango churros, passion fruit chutney, exotic foam. Okay. Sorry, this is my secret trick. Yeah. Normally I keep chocolate in the pocket because your body has some warmth, so you can actually keep inside and the chocolate still won't set. Okay.
So is that your secret to becoming an Olympic champion? Keep that near to your body. Body heat. All right, well, we learn. Huh?
So now I'm decorating the third plate with a different kind of approach. So for this I use a chocolate brush technique. For this I use an airbrush, and this I will use a chocolate piping for decoration. So what I use to help me is cling wrap. Because if you want to pipe lines over, you tend to stain the plate. And when you clean, it's very dirty. So what I do is I put 2 pieces of cling wrap and I pipe over. So you won't stain the plate. So you have minimum cleaning. Okay. And for the next line, so in this way, you don't have to clean the plate over and over again. And it's easily accessible because everyone has a cling wrap. What you do, sometimes you will have fingerprints. You can use water with tissue and clean off. You use a wet cleaning. Then after that, then you use the dry tissue to clean. So you will eliminate those fingerprints that will prevent you from getting marks deducted if you are taking part in any competition. Okay. I'll have a mango sauce, and I'll put a mango sauce on top now. Yes, it's named as pineapple mango coulis. I use pineapple puree, berry fruit, mango puree, berry fruit, pectin NH, and sugar. So when you use pectin, always mix a portion of sugar together. Because when you add inside a boiling mixture, the pectin tends to lump up. So you have to bring down the thickness of the pectin by mixing a bit of sugar. So when you boil the puree, you add in while whizzing. So at the same, you cook until about 60 degrees, and you take out and you cool. The next day, the coulis will actually thicken slightly. So what you do is you use a hand blender and you blend smooth, and the texture will be ultra smooth for piping. Okay. So for this platter, my sauce I will do in a different way, as in doing in square. So what I do is I actually get another accessible tool, which is this plastic. I think this one you can find in bookstores. They have a piece of plastic with a lot of sizes that you can. It's like a ruler. So actually, I just take a hard scissors and crack it, so I get this stencil. So what I do is I put on top. And slowly I put it out. Then you will get a very square shape. After of which I put the passion fruit chutney. This is a pineapple, passion, raisin. The composition is these three items. So what I do is I have pineapple puree, passion fruit with passion puree with seeds. If your puree doesn't have seeds, you can actually get the fresh passion and you just remove the seeds. So sugar and juice binder. Juice binder is another commercialized product, something similar to pectin. We can get it from Redman actually. From Redman they has this product. So it's a thickener also. So what you do is you boil the puree with the sugar and juice binder. After boiled, you add the pineapple compote, pineapple fruit, and you poach it for around 2 minutes. After that, of which you remove and you add in the raisins. The reason you don't cook the raisins is because raisins are very easily overcooked. So after you overcook, the raisins will look very meshy. So I want it to look very clean, very nice, and also poached. So after poaching, I transfer to a container and I put in the raisins and the passion fruit and I seal and I chill overnight. So after overnight, you will actually absorb the moisture from the puree. Yes. So this presentation, instead of chunks which we usually see, what I do is I julienne the pineapple into lengthwise and I do the plating now. So because I want it to be clean and also look very moist and poached, so before I put every slice, I use you can use anything, either a plate or a container to just slightly clean the sauce a bit. Because you want the plate to look juicy but not messy. So you clean up a bit. So I add another layer. So that's where we see, although it's cold-plated, you have to do it like how you serve a la carte. So people will see, wow, although it's a cold-plating dessert, it looks juicy and real. So that is where you will actually score points. So after I put it, I add in the raisins. Okay, and lastly, the passion fruit seeds. You see, for angles that I can't reach, I always use these two. Yeah, so you have easy controlling. Okay, just move it straight. Okay. Okay, after that, of which I will put the pineapple mascarpone parfait. For this, we have to do the real parfait, but real parfait can't really last because what is parfait? Parfait is a frozen mousse. So we have to do exactly like that, but we have to adjust the texture slightly for cold plating. Because you're going to put the plate there for like 1 or 2 hours. If you put the real one, I think within 3 minutes, it will start to poof. So you use the real parfait recipe, but you adjust with gelatin. But not overly, just nice to the texture that you can hold. This one you have to do a lot of trial and error. So you have to try a few times. If it's too hard, you have to reduce slightly. So what I do, this is the pineapple parfait that I did. I created this design for this platter, these 2 designs. But ultimately, I use this because I prefer this. So this one, this parfait, how we do it from the inside, this round circle is actually the jelly, the curd. So I cook the curd and I pour into a frame and I use a mini cutter. Or if you don't have access to a mini cutter, what you can do is you use a trick of piping tube. Because round piping tube is actually a natural cutter. So you can use that to cut this shape out. Cut this shape out already, then you fill inside with Bavaros. And these 2 piping is passion mango jelly and mascarpone mousse. So what I do is I pipe and I semi-freeze. I pipe on a piece of plastic using a piping tube, semi-freeze, and I insert this onto it and I cover. So you throw in the chiller for roughly about 3 minutes, so it will get this shape. And before that, you can use the neutral glaze that I used beforehand. You can also use mirror gel, and you warm it slightly, and you use the spraying method, the technique that I show you. After you spray, you can see the whole mousse is very lively. It's very shiny, very lively. This is what you want to see in a cold plating dessert. So as just now how I show on the churros, I've kept some over here. I put it on here. So churros, what is churros? Churros is a fried item. So exactly if you eat this dessert, it will be slightly dry. So what you need to do is you need to check on the texture and how you're going to eat this dessert. If you eat as a whole like this, I think it will be slightly dry because of the churros. So what I do, I just cook a basic vanilla sauce, just a simple vanilla sauce to go with the churros. So the technique that I use is almost used up. So what I do, I use a piping bag and I use a spoon effect. And the trick is, you can use the back of a spoon to draw the sauce. Okay, so this is a challenging part. I will put this tulip. I'll plate this tulip on top of the plate. And I'll put the churros inside. Okay. Okay. Yeah, 我找到。Okay. Okay, so it's almost done. So I will just add exotic foam. Exotic foam, the recipe is over here. It's pineapple puree, mango puree, yuzu puree, and passion puree. So this is quite simple. You just defrost the 4 purees, and you blend in with sosa lecithin powder. Blend in 50 mango puree, 50 pineapple puree, 20 yuzu puree, and passion fruit 20. So you blend it with 1 to 2 grams of sosa lecithin, and you can straight away blend and you put the foam. Foam is very challenging as it rise easily and it also fall easily, so you have to control the texture, make sure it's not too hot. And you blend. Sorry. Okay. Okay, and our third dessert is done. So we move on to the last dessert of the day. Which is the red platter with the so-called strawberry. Okay, so firstly I will do the sauce for the red platter first. Again, I will use another form of technique because all the different techniques I've already used on the 3 platter. So this is the last platter. So I have actually thought of a design. And I got this comb. You have a lot of types of comb that you can use for chocolate decoration. The most common ones are triangle, but you can find these at some shops. I think I found it at the Daiso, which is for $2. So I'll use this. I like this shape, so I will use this to do a technique of the sauce. So you see, it's a very artistic shape that that is very different. So you have to clean the plate a little bit. Make sure the plate is clean. Okay, then we move on to the next one. Okay, okay, this plating will be plate. What I do over here is a Meridien sponge. You can see in a very special shape, which I created for the IKA Olympics too. This is quite direct from what I showed you in the previous few desserts. You can bake in a very flat tray. This is a Meridien sponge. So you have the recipe over there. Meridien sponge. Yep, we have the recipe over there. So you have eggs, pistachio paste, salt, sugar, plain flour, and butter. So as how you do a normal Meridien, but what we do Meridien, we normally pipe in the mold, which has this kind of shape. But this one is another. I changed the way of how we present Meridien. So I bake it in a flat tray instead, but you bake it at a very low temperature, because if you apply too thinly and you bake too high, your sponge will get extremely dry. So what you do is you spread on a flat tray, quite thin, about 2 mm, and you bake at 150 for around 10 minutes, and you remove. So you have 2 layers of sponge, and in between, I did a strawberry jelly, which has puree of 750 strawberry puree, very fruit, 120 sugar, and 18 grams of gelatin. So I set in between these 2 layers of sponge. So 1 layer of sponge, I cook the jelly and I set it, then I cover it with another layer of sponge. So it's actually a rectangle shape, and I cut it into this shape. So it's more special in a way lah. Okay, so this one is a lime strawberry cremel that I did on top. This shape that I created is conjunction with the base that I created. So I did a half S shape, and this one I did the same. So you can actually do this mold. I also did my own mold from this by using a silicone. So what I did is I did pastillas, and I roll to a shape of this shape, and I roll it, and I create that kind of curve, and I let it dry. Then I pour silicone on top. But as I suggested, you can use gelatin instead. It's a much safer cost lah, because gelatin you can remelt and use back again. So use back the recipe I told you in just now. So after that, of which you cast the strawberry cremel on top, and you freeze it, you take out and you spray it. So this spray, instead of just one spray, I did some sort of yin-yang spray. Yin-yang is a mixture of 2 colors. So the front I sprayed is rose, and the back I highlighted with just a touch of red. So when you look at the dessert, you have some degree of look lah. So what I do is I put this on top. Very careful. Always arrange the platter in a way convenient to yourself. If you feel that it's something not so suitable, you can just turn it around. Okay, that is done. Okay, so to add some crunch, pistachio floating. To add some crunch, actually I have a pistachio fouletin on top, but Jolene will help me to get that first, so I will move on to the next one with the strawberry. Always be sure of the direction that you want to put. Okay, I'll take this out first. Thank you. So this is a pistachio fouletin. This fouletin is simple. You just have a ground pistachio, plain flour, sugar, butter, pistachio paste, and white chocolate. I think there's a slight typo error. The plain flour is actually crumble. It's baked crumble. So baked crumble using a basic recipe: ground almond 100, sugar 100, butter 100, and flour 100. After you bake, you weigh out 50, and you mix with ground pistachio, sugar, melted butter, pistachio paste, and white chocolate. So the same, you form it in a flat flat 2 piece of baking paper. You roll it and you freeze it. After removing it, you use to get this shape. You use 2 round size cutter, one big, one small. Then you will get a frame, a circle frame, and you cut half. That's where you get this shape. So this one is on top. I will start with the next few plating. So this is a lime chantilly. Lime chantilly, you can use whipped cream, elevate whipped cream, 1000 to 200 of icing sugar, and you just zest a bit of lime zest. It's just to balance the flavor of the dessert only. So what I do is I add the strawberries and cranberries deco. Always before putting, you check your position, whether where you want to place the fruits, because you don't want to do double job. After you place it, when you remove it, you will have some stains of the thing, and you will have a hard time cleaning. So always decide and choose the direction you want before you place the fruits. Okay, and I add the cranberry. And to finish it, I actually did fresh lime zest. You can put it in, you can candy it by putting it in sugar syrup, water 1000 and sugar 500. After you boil it, you just zest the lemon zest inside by using the peeler. I think that peeler I will show you which peeler that I use. So actually do it in stripes instead of the normal zest. So this one will add some finishing inside. So due to humidity, just now the sugar actually melted. I add another one. So I'm going to add the mint leaf again. This part, be extremely careful because the sugar, once you melt it too much, it will fall onto the mousse. So you need to control the part where you burn. Yeah. And here you go, the 4 platter desserts for IKA that I created. Thank you so much.